from this video onwards, we are going to start a new series where we are going to do breast density classification using deep learning. But before we begin, let's first go through the concept of breast cancer and see how breast density contributes towards it, so that we have an idea of why we are doing it before we actually jump in and start working on it. Okay, so to start off, breast cancer is the most frequent cancer in the world, meaning that out of 3, every 1 woman has breast cancer, and the survival rate of this cancer becomes 99% if this cancer is detected as early as possible. So one thing that really contributes in understanding and detecting breast cancer is breast density. So for example, if a doctor is presented with a patient and she has dense breasts, this would mean that she has a higher risk or higher chance of having breast cancer compared to the one that has less dense breasts. So breast density becomes a very important factor in finding out and understanding if the person might have breast cancer, or if there are certain, it provides sort of an idea of whether the patient would have it or not. So what happens with dense breast is that it contains dense tissues, right? And because of those dense tissues, the tumor become hidden. So, for example, dense breast tissues and tumor look very similar or alike, meaning that they both appear white on a mammogram. So, this becomes a challenge for the radiologist or the doctor to identify if that dense tissue is actually a tumor or it is just dense breasts. So, and also another statistics is that around 40 to 50% of women have dense breast. So, this becomes a challenge, and this needs to be addressed, I think, because it really helps radiologists in doing further mammography and doing further procedures if they have any confusion or if they think that the patient might have breast cancer. So before we jump in, let's first understand how radiologists go through and decide if the person has a certain abnormality or not. This is done through mammography. There are basically 2 types of mammograms. The first the type is the screening mammogram, and another is the diagnostic mammogram. Screening mammogram is basically performed on every woman when she reaches above the age of 40. It is performed after every 1 to 2 years, and the goal is to basically make sure and keep a check to see if there are any signs of breast cancer. Diagnostic mammogram, on the other hand, occurs when, for example, a patient is presented and she has dense breasts. So, and the doctor is concerned whether the dense tissues might have a tumor or not. So, the patient goes through additional imaging that is above and beyond the routine imaging or the screening mammography. And the goal is to basically gain some additional insights and to gain some additional information to see if the person has breast cancer. And there are certain factors that contribute towards it. So, for example, a patient might have pain in the breast, or there might be a lump in it, or there might be nipple discharge, which are clear indicator of that the person might have breast cancer, or there are higher chances or risk of having breast cancer. So let's see how mammograms actually look like. They look something like this. In this, we have basically 2 types of views. The first one is the CC, or the craniocranial view, and the second is the MLO view. So what happens is that the CC view is taken from the top of the patient and it goes towards the down. Okay, so it takes, for example, the top to down approach. So from the CC view, we get the top view of the breast, and there are basically 2 sides of the breast, like right breast and left breast. So this is how it would look like. If it has RCC on it, it means that the scan has been taken from the top down and it is from the right breast. So it would appear from your right hand. So for example, if you put your right hand, you'll see that the breast is starting from the right side, and here, as you can see, the breast is starting from the left side. Similarly, the MLO view is basically taken from the side of the patient. So, for example, from the left side to the right side. So, this would mean that this view is showing the patient's right side. So, it would provide us with, for example, a whole holistic view of the mammogram, and we can have the view of both top to down and left to right, so that we can have a proper mammogram, and the doctors can then begin and analyze it and see if there are any lumps in it, or if there are any dense tissues, and so on. Okay, so this is how mammogram actually looks like. So moving on to the breast densities. So, how do radiologists identify if the person's breasts are dense and onward scale? So, this is done by using a system which is the BIRADS system that provides us with 4 different categories. So, for example, radiologists, what they do is when the patient is presented to them, they take a mammogram and then they have these 4 views. And then the next step is to use the BIRADS system to classify each view image that they have based on the density that it has. So, for example, we have 4 densities A, B, C, and D. Starting off with the category A, we have fatty tissues over here. So fatty tissues look more gray compared to these white regions. So the white regions that we see in the other categories represent dense tissues, right? So if here you can see that you have more gray area compared to the white area. This means that this breast is fatty. Moving on to the next category, here we can see that we have dense areas, but they are scattered and there are holes in it, so for example, which are filled with the fatty tissues. This means that this is scattered fibrogranular tissue and it belongs to the second category. Moving on to the next category, as you can see, as we are moving forward, the amount of dense tissues that we have is increasing. So here you can see there are more dense areas compared to the fatty areas, and these dense areas are much more connected to one another. So this means that this belongs to the heterogeneously dense or category C. Moving on to category D, we can see that here we have much more dense areas compared to the fatty areas or scattered dense. So this is the extremely dense category or D category. So what happens is that when a patient is presented and if she has extremely dense breasts, detecting breast cancer becomes very difficult. So here you can see the problem is that the tumor would also appear white in color and the dense tissues are also appearing white. So the dense tissues will hide the presence of the tumor, and this would make it much more difficult for the radiologist to do further analysis. So this is exactly what we are going to do. We are going to have create a deep learning model, and then we are going to train it on a publicly available data set and see how AI can help in breast density classification and making things more time efficient and more effective for the radiologist, so that they can focus on much more challenging tasks such as treatment planning and so on. Okay, so the data set that we are going to use is the RSNA breast density data set. There are so many data sets that are available. There is the CMMD data set, which is the Chinese mammography density data set, I think, and then there is Winda Memo data sets. Some of the data sets are proprietary, meaning that you have to get access to them, and some of them are publicly available, meaning that you can easily go ahead and use them. So for these few tutorials, we are going to be using the RSNA breast cancer detection dataset. Okay, so I have added 2 links here because the link, that is the second link, is from the Screening Mammography Breast Cancer Detection Challenge. In this challenge, we would find the CSV, which contains all the information about the abnormality, the breast density. It would contain information about the patients, the images we have for each patient, and so on. And then one problem here is that the files are available in DICOM format, and we can go ahead and convert them into PNGs and start working on them, but I found a data set which already had the images converted into PNG to make things more easier for us, and then we can use those PNGs to train our model, which is why I've added these 2 links. From the second link, we'll get the CSV, and from the first link, we'll get the images that we will be working on for density classification. And this is the overview of how the RSNA dataset looks like. It is a very good data set. It provides us with a lot of information and so many images, around 58,000 images, which becomes very essential to understand different concepts, and it would become very easier for us to do classification based tasks using deep learning, and we can leverage a large data set like the RSNA one. Okay, so the plan for breast density classification is to go ahead and load the RSNA dataset. Then we'll perform some data exploration on it or exploratory data analysis to understand the dataset distribution, how many images are distributed among different categories. Then we'll visualize the images and see how the images actually look like, if there are any issues in it, if there are any implants in the image. We have to check for that as well. Once we are done with it, the next step is to do to pre-processing. In pre-processing, we'll remove those implants if we found any, and then we'll also pre-process the data set, including data augmentation, creating an image generator, and then splitting the data set into train, test, and validation so that it is ready for us to train the deep learning model. In part 2, we'll do deep learning model training, in which we would train a deep learning model and then we'll evaluate it using different performance measures such as sensitivity, specificity, accuracy, FN score. And if we have time, we'll also get a visual explanation of the model using GradCam and see how it would provide us with different results. Okay, lastly, I have added a part 3 in which we'll document the baseline results, meaning that the purpose of this is to use, for example, 3 deep learning models, for example, Inception V3, DenseNet, and ResNet, and then we'll document all the results that we get, meaning the hyperparameters that we are using, and then the results that we get in the form of accuracy, FN score, sensitivity, and specificity. Once we have all that data in a sheet or a table, we'll then analyze it and see which model performs the best. And on the basis of that, we'll have a baseline results, and then we can move on in the future and use more complex models on it, or make architectural changes to the model, or change some pre-processing steps to see if we can get better performance. So for that, we need to have some baseline results. We'll definitely go ahead and do that and see how we can document those results so that we can use them in future, and then we can also come back to the results and see what we have done so far. Okay, so in the next video, or the part 1 of this video, we'll start with data exploration and pre-processing. And in this data set and exploration and pre-processing, the first steps that came to my mind were to do exploratory data analysis, and then to perform data set splitting into train validation and test set, and then we'll perform data augmentation, create image generator, and get the data ready so that it can be fed into the machine learning model or deep learning model for training. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please go ahead and hit subscribe button. You can definitely give me any suggestions you have, and I'll see you in the part 1 of this video where we'll start working on the coding part. Thank you.